Hello, today we are looking at Solomon's Song of Songs, chapter 5, verses 2 through 8. It is August 25th, 2021, and let's go ahead and look at this. The commentary that I'm using, which is one of the Concordia commentaries, there you go, the Song of Songs by, Christopher Mitchell, says that this is the most perplexing of the sections of the Song of Songs. And I don't think he's wrong. So as we look at it, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. It starts with the Shulamite woman speaking. And at verse 2, it is probably the Shulamite woman speaking about a dream. This is one of the reasons that the text may be perplexing. There's a lot of commentators who want to look at it either as a dream or not a dream. We're going to look at it from the way this commentary likes, and I think appropriately, that it starts with her in a dream. It says, and this is the Shulamite woman, the wife now of Solomon, I am sleeping, but my heart is awake. Listen, my lover is knocking. It doesn't tell us what he's knocking upon. It's probably the lattice of a window, given other details that are going to come. But she's sleeping, but in her sleep, her heart wishes for her husband. Okay? Let's do this as the church. The church right now sees Christ but through a veil darkly. We are in a present resurrection. We've been given new life, but it isn't the full fulfillment of that new life which is to come. So we're not sleeping as in those who are dead, but we are asleep in the sense that the world is not as good as it's going to be, as full as it's going to be, and Christ's present isn't as apparent as it's going to be. It is as certain, it is as real, it is as actual, but to us, who are living as the church now, the groom, we can't touch the groom right now, okay, except in communion, okay? So she's in sleep. Her groom is not present right now. She's asleep, but then she hears a knocking. The groom has come home from whatever he was doing. He's away during the night, but he's come home. Knock, knock, knock. And then this is the voice of the groom. Open for me, my sister, my friend, my dove, my perfect one. Let me into the bedchamber. Let me in to be with you. And it describes her with these 4 beautiful endearments, right? My sister, you are now one with me. We are as close as people can be. We're equal. My friend, you have been raised up so that you're a queen and I'm a king. You're my wife, and so you have an equal right to the throne. My friend, my dove. Just this description it keeps using of eyes like a dove, and dove is a beautiful, wonderful thing that in its physical activity, in what it is, in its intrinsic value, it is desirable and loving and gentle. It has great and wonderful qualities. And then my perfect one, kind of a summary of all of this. When I married my wife, she was my perfect one. She's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Our marriage isn't perfect. And yet it is perfect because we are the ones that God put together. And we're the ones that God knew would come together and be husband and wife. And for our time, for right now, for doing what we are perfect for one another. Again, not that we will then avoid sorrow and suffering and sin, but given that reality, my life and her life are better because we are husband and wife. And God meant it that way. And when God puts things together, it's a perfect thing. Okay? So she's his perfect one. So we can look at Solomon saying she's his perfect wife. We can look at the church, which is Christ's perfect bride. Okay, so he's knocked on her door in her dream. He hears him knocking, and he wants to come in to be with her. Then he says, for my head is filled with dew, my locks with drops of night. So this seems to imply that it's raining outside. Okay, and gotta let me in now. I can't wait outside because I'm getting wet. Okay, it's time for me to come in. Right? Okay. If I am not with you, it is miserable. This is a good description, again, of a marriage, right? If the husband and wife are apart for a long time or even for a short time, sometimes it's miserable. They want to be there because the world's a hard place when you don't have someone to hold on to trust in, to be there for you in good and bad, to delight with you, to have joy with you, and then to be there to comfort you in suffering. Okay? So he's outside and he's asking her if they can have this time together. And then comes this part, which I think really hits on something we ought to think about. She again speaks, the Shulamite woman, married woman now. I have taken off my tunic. How should I put it on? I've washed my feet. How should I soil them? How should I go out and get my husband and let him in when I have done all the things that I was supposed to do, the things that order my life, which get me ready to sleep at night? I've done all my ablutions. I don't want to get dirty again. I've done all the work. And my life is one where there's a lot of work. There's a lot of trouble in getting ready for things. And when it comes night, I need a break. Okay? I think this is interesting, both from a marriage perspective and from a church perspective. There's a lot of work in marriage, and my wife works constantly. I say, she's not done till 8 or 9 o'clock, and even then, she could probably be still doing more. She works constantly. She's a stay-at-home mom, but she works as hard or harder than anyone who's in a full-time job. Okay? And in the Bible, when the sun goes down, that's when you rest. That's when the day's done. It seems like her day isn't done when the sun goes down. Maybe when our suns go down, it starts approaching being done, but she still does things after they're sleeping. Okay? So it is quite understandable. The woman doesn't want to do more. And sometimes when the husband comes, it's night, it's quiet, he wants to spend some quality time with his wife, she's exhausted. Very understandable. And the husband needs to take that into account, right? So that's the questions he's asking. I've done enough. How can I put in more work now? How can it be that my husband becomes a burden to add to other burdens? Isn't he supposed to be the one that's helping me out and bringing me through things and supporting me? In her mind, she's going through this question. It's a legitimate question. And in the church, it's a legitimate question. Christ is our salvation. He is the one, his burden is light, his yoke. But sometimes, boy, we've done a lot, and now I've got to do more for Christ. Now he expects me to act in manners where I love my neighbor and I love my church, and I got to get up for church, and I maybe got to make meetings, and boy, it's causing problems in my relationships when I talk about Jesus, and those people don't really want to hear it, and it's just hard. And I've done all these things, and things are peaceful, and they're finally calm. Why would I despoil things by bringing Jesus into this conversation at this point? I'll come to him later when I'm awake, when it's morning. Okay? So we understand where the woman's coming from. She's ready to sleep. She perhaps is sleeping. And now the husband's waking her up. And boy, if she starts in with the husband, it's just going to be a whole big thing. If we start in with Jesus, it's just going to be a whole big thing. You're married, and this is something you've done before. This is, we've been in this situation before. Okay? Do I really want to interrupt the peace by going back to the activity? Okay? Particularly when it notes how to soil them. So it's not, part of this activity isn't going to be very, nice. I don't want to be soiled. Clean and happy right now. Okay, so verse 4. My lover extended his hand from the hole. Which hole we don't know. It's probably a hole in like a window lattice work. Okay, he's extending his hand. And my insides yearned over him. oh, my husband really wants me. He's trying to unlock the window so he can be with me. He really wants me, and the fact that my husband still wishes to be with me, wants to be present, wants to have a part in my life. I was sitting here, and now seeing how much he loves me, okay, I do want him right now. I want him present here and now. I want him to be with me. My heart yearns within me because I know how much he loves me. Very important in a marriage that you let your wife and the wife let your husband know how much you love them. Because there are times when, it's not going to be easy and obvious. The joke for one TV show was the wife saying, "You never say you love me." He said, "I told you once that when we were married, and if it changes, I'll let you know." It doesn't work. Life wears you down. Sin wears you down. The weights of things wear you down. And it is a struggle sometimes to love one another. Sometimes it's really, really easy, but sometimes it's hard. And it's going to disrupt things. When you see how much he loves you, in this case, or she loves you, that can light in you the desire to move. That can kind of get rid of that inertia and get you moving once again. And get the church up off of its hiney and get into action to show love to its members and to show love to its community. To get a wife and a husband into action to come back together and to spend some quality time with one another. And by quality time, all time with my wife is quality time, but I'm talking from a human perspective here. Time with you when I can look at you and know that you love me, and you can look at me and know I love you. Okay? So his hand is kind of reaching in, and that wakes the yearning in her. Okay, it gets her out of bed and willing to once again dirty herself and be a part of the life of the world in love with her husband. I myself arose to open for my lover, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the bar. So she reaches for the lock, and her hand is dripping with myrrh, which that's kind of a gross image, and that makes it look like definitely like a dream, because why is her hand dripping with myrrh, perfumed oil? Well, myrrh is probably here representing the fact that she loves her husband and desires him. It's that beautiful smell that fills the air and was used earlier in images of them wanting to come to the consummation of the marriage. So her hand is ready now. Her heart is ready now. Her husband is coming. She's gone from this passive, lackadaisical, slovenly, to excited and happy and ready to be with her husband again. And she hits the bar. She wants to open the window or whatever it is that's keeping him from her so that he can enter in out of the cold rain, and they can once again be husband and wife together, happily in marriage. I myself opened for my lover, but my lover had turned, passed on. My soul went out when he spoke. I myself opened. I'm ready now. Opened the window, but it was too late. He had gotten tired of waiting for me out in the rain, and so he went somewhere else to get shelter. This is one of the reasons we say this is a perplexing text. There is a warning here, right? A warning for married couples, number one. The warning is, if you too often turn your back upon your spouse and you don't have these times when you can come together in love because you're tired, because the other things in life are distracting you, you've got kids, and kids wear you out. And so, I just don't have time. Or you've got a job, and the job, it's important. You got to get it done. You got to get that money done. Maybe you have to go to war. All these things make very hard on a marriage, right? Because finally, when you want to come back together and be with each other, first of all, you don't know what you're doing anymore. You don't know each other anymore. Maybe you really do, but you kind of think you don't. You think you've grown or changed or whatever these weird phrases used. God has still made you one flesh. You are still man and wife. You're still the ones who are supposed to be absolutely able to trust the other, to put your interests first. But it's hard. because you haven't seen the person in a while, and when you have seen them, they've not been the center of your attention, or you've only given them little parts of your attention. You're worn out. So finally, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to be married. You know, I'm ready to experience the full gifts of marriage. I'm ready to be with you. Well, he's just worn out. He's tired, and he went away. Now that, you know, if this is a dream, this is her waking up from her dream, and she's worried about these things. If it's not a dream, then that's an even worse situation, right? She doesn't know what he's thinking, but she's got to be thinking maybe he's seeking someone else. There's other possibilities for him. And if it's Solomon, who's got many, many wives and many concubines, he came to her, he wants to be with her, and she said, no, well, yeah, Solomon's got options. You go out there and be with anybody. Now, Christ always wants us, but we as people don't always see it. We could think, oh, there are other Christians out there. He's saving other people. Why does he really need me? Why am I important? I'm not important. I mean, I'm just one of God's creations. I'm just one. And I didn't treat him well. I wasn't interested in him. I said, another time, Lord. I'm done for today. Why would he come back for me? Life's a scary thing at times. And when we deny those who are our loves, who should be the center of our lives, our Lord, our spouse, we're setting up a bad situation. And I think that's what we're doing here in these verses. My soul went out when he spoke. I sought him, but I did not find him. Whether she sought him in a dream or she sought him in reality, having awakened from the dream out of fear. This happens sometimes. You have a nightmare, and this would be a nightmare. And you wake up, and then you can't go back to sleep, and you need to somehow find a resolution to it. And if the nightmare is, where's my spouse? Then you go looking. Okay? And that's the way this commentary interprets this, is she is awakened from her dream now, and she's actually going out and looking for him, like she did before she was married in verse 3, where she finds him finally, and they are happy. Now she's seeking him here, and she won't find him at the end of this, but she will, in the next section, tell other people to continue looking for him so that she can be together with him. Okay? But here comes another weird part in verse 7 coming up. I sought him, but I did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer me. He's out there in the rain somewhere. If this was a dream and he was away and he was off, and I don't know, it's Solomon, he might be off with another wife. But he might be off doing something, or he might be at war. You know, they didn't have much war during Solomon's time because Solomon had a peaceful kingdom, but he might be with foreign dignitaries, all sorts of options there. Anyway, she's looking for him, and she can't find him. Now comes, as I say, one of the perplexing verses. 7, the watchmen who go about in the city found me. Back in chapter 3, when the watchmen watched out for her, and they protected her virginity, and they kept her safe in the night. Here it says, they struck me, they wounded me. They lifted my veil from on me, those watchmen of the city walls. Different commentaries have handled the struck and wounded, and different levels of how much striking, how much wounding, how dangerous was it. I tend to think it was the way they might have treated prostitutes or whores or adulterers. And they were guarding the virtue of the city. And they thought that she, because she was out here in the middle of the night without her husband, well, her husband was gone, and she's out here, is she going out here to seek after another man? Is she going out here to act in a licentious way? So they strike her and they wound her. This is obviously not what she's doing. The explanation for why the watchmen do it is not necessarily central to what we as Christians need to learn from this passage. It's probably what we need to learn here is that sometimes, I'll have to stop for a moment.